What's going on, everybody? You're listening to episode 3 of the Point2Point NHL Recap Show. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Havlack. Mark, I know you got some time off right now over in Newfoundland. How's that going for you, buddy?
Pretty good so far, dude. Got in yesterday morning, just kind of been chilling for the last 24 hours or so. Pretty nice to kind of just get away from work. Honestly, gonna be right into the NHL this week though. Probably watching hockey every single night while I'm off. Been a pretty good start to the season. We're obviously gonna get into some stuff, but how you been doing so far, buddy?
I'm doing good. I feel a little bit of like a cold coming on. I'm starting to feel it in the throat a little bit. So I'm
Can
just
kind of hear it in
praying.
your voice, can't lie.
Yeah, I'm just praying that like it doesn't turn into anything worse. Like I know when I was on vacation over the summer, I got pretty sick then, and it kind of sucks. So I'm hoping it's just like a little throat bug, and I'm getting a couple days. I have hockey on Wednesday, so I'm hoping I don't have to miss that. But we'll see how it goes. But same with you, man. I'm just pumped that the NHL is back. Like the first few weeks so far have been awesome to watch. Going forward, there's a lot of fun stories. We're gonna be talking about some of those today. You want to get right into it or what?
100%. Before we get into it, if you had to play today, would you consider yourself day to day with like the flu, or would you
Honestly,
think
I'd play, man.
you'd grind through it?
I'd grind through it. Like honestly, like
I
it's
like
not
to hear
that
that.
bad. It's not that bad. It's more just like every 5 minutes I'm like, like
Man, I
doing
always
that.
found when I played that like sometimes when I felt like shit, I actually played really good. Like I don't know why, man. Like it was like the weirdest thing. Like I always felt like I had like a really good game when I like felt like shit going into the game.
See, I feel like it's because like at that point you're just running off of adrenaline. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
oh,
at that point,
100%.
like you're just so like pooped out energy wise. You're just running off fumes, and it's like you don't have, like, you're not doing that stuff where you're like overthinking on the ice because it's like you don't have the energy to do that.
Oh,
You're
100%.
just playing more natural, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
I'd say I'm like day to day, but like not really, man. Like
Game time
I'd
decision
play.
maybe,
I'm
yeah.
more of a game time decision. I'm
Okay.
probably playing, but like I'm at like 80%. Like I'm not going out there for a full 5 minute beer league shift. I'm probably going out there for like a little
Quick
two and a
40 and
half
you're off.
period. Yeah, quick 40 seconds and I'm off. Well, let's get into the first couple things that we have here. We're gonna do a little segment here because we're so early in this season. There's some of the stories are just like wishy washy. So we're gonna do a little bit over or under reactions. The first one we have up here, it's the Nashville Predators will miss the playoffs. How do you feel about that, Mark?
I think that's a little bit of an overreaction. I know they've been kind of bad to start this season with only 12 goals in 5 games so far. Stamkos finally got his first as a Pred against the Red Wings, but yeah, they haven't been too good. They haven't been able to figure it out. I don't know if this is a little bit of sometimes when you get some really good talent together, it takes them a little bit of time to gel and figure out who's playing with who. The desperation doesn't really seem there from the Preds so far. And to completely honest with you, I love UC Saros, but I don't know what it is with him, dude. He starts like shit every single season, no matter how good he ends up finishing. I think it's just a bad stretch from them. I don't think they're going to continue at this pace where they're just scoring over 2 goals a game. They're obviously winless. They're going to have to figure this out pretty quickly. They can't keep going like this, or they're going to kind of dig themselves a hole that they probably won't be able to get out of. My opinion, I think this is an overreaction, and I see the Preds making the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I think it's an overreaction. Like when you look at the changes that they made over the offseason, like over even the last two off seasons, like they've had a lot of movement, right? It's going to take some time for these guys to gel. When we talk about the trade deadline and players getting dealt at the deadline, and we say give them a couple weeks to feel comfortable in the new team, like it's sort of how we're feeling right now with Nashville, where it's like you have all these guys come in, like Brady Shea, Stamkos, even Ryan O'Reilly, like came in last year, right? Like it's a lot of new guys on the team, and it's going to take them a bit of time to gel. Like, yeah, it's a bit of a slower start than what you're hoping for. You don't want to go winless in your first 5 games, that's for sure. They're definitely wanting to have a better start to the season, but there's still a lot of time left, man. Like I have no doubt that these guys are going to bounce back, win a few games this week, and I bet you by next episode when we're recording, we're like, yeah, Nashville's looking better.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They probably won't be 500, but I mean, like they'll probably be hitting a step in the right direction. I think by
Yeah,
next week.
I for sure still have them in the playoffs. I'm not too worried about this team whatsoever. Next one we have it's the Ottawa Senators will make the playoffs. How are you feeling?
I guess the way I'd say it is I consider an underreaction because I did have this team making the playoffs in our preseason predictions. I can't lie, watch them the first couple games. I don't think they're like a cup contender by any means, but something feels a little bit different about this team head into this year. They played the Canadians. They didn't look the best, but they're 3-2, dude. They've beat three pretty good hockey teams: the LA Kings, the Panthers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right? Linus Ullmark hasn't even played half the season yet because of an injury. I think that they're going to get some pretty solid, consistent goaltending out of him. I think they're definitely looking better. I think they've brought in some pretty good guys that are like experience, have that Stanley Cup pedigree this year. And I think Ottawa's probably going to end up squeaking into a wild card spot this year.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on this one. I think it's an underreaction. Honestly, I did not have Ottawa making the playoffs when we did our season previews. I had Buffalo Sabres in. I'm completely walking back on that statement, and I'm now going to say Buffalo Sabres are not going to make the playoffs, and the Ottawa Senators will be. I don't think they're going to finish top three in this division. Like, I still think this Atlantic division's so stacked that it's going to be hard for them to squeak in there in the top three. But I think like how they're playing to start the season off, I see them making a wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. Like we sort of talked about how some of these younger players were going to have to take steps, and some of the players last year didn't really fully live up to their potential. Like Tim Stützle so far, he's looked really well. Another guy, Jake Sanderson, right? Like Jake
Those are
Sanderson,
the
man,
two guys
he's
I was
looked,
about to bring up.
yeah,
Like,
he's looked phenomenal.
yeah,
I like,
I think it's more now Chikrin's gone. Shabbat's kind of like he's not as good as he used to be. He's still solid, but I think Sanderson's got like a higher ceiling, to be quite honest with you. And I think he's a better all around 200-foot defenseman. So I like what I'm seeing, especially out of those guys this year. Stutzel's kind of bringing a little bit of physicality this year, too. I don't know if you've seen some of those Ottawa games. He had a huge hit on, I don't know who it was, like Nick Paul or something like that. Went the other way. Ottawa scored against Tampa. So kind of good to see that. Good to see him in the mix. He kind of had a little bit of a down year last year after exploding for 90 points the year before, but I think if Ottawa can figure it out defensively, they're going to be getting a couple extra saves every night with Linus Ullmark in there if he's playing solid. And I think this team's going to be able to get some more wins than they have it in the past. You know what I mean? And I think they're going to be able to squeeze into a wild card.
yeah, I'm all with you on that. I'm liking this Ottawa team so far from what we've been seeing early on here in this season. Let's move back out to the Central Division. This next one, it's one of the big dogs in that division. The Colorado Avalanche will miss the playoffs. Overreaction or underreaction here?
I think this is a bit of an overreaction, to be honest with you. I think they're going to be able to figure it out. I will say, though, is I'm still on the topic of mine that I don't think that they're a cup contender. I think Georgiev's got to figure it out, or they got to do something with their goaltending because they have NHL worst 29 goals against so far this season. We were just talking before the show. They finally put Annunen in last night. Got a really solid performance, 25 saves, 1 goal against. They haven't really got that from Georgiev this year whatsoever. I think they kind of just overplay the guy, and he's more suited for a backup role. So I'm not too sure what they're going to do exactly. I know Elliot Freeman was talking on his podcast that the Abs have some interest in Mackenzie Blackwood from San Jose. I don't know how much of an improvement that is, to be quite honest with you, over I think in the short term it could be, but it's like I think if you put Blackwood as your starter, you might be looking at some of the same results we're getting from Georgiev. Maybe not as bad, but kind of not good enough. You know what I mean? So I think that's definitely a cause for concern for them, but I think that their talent is going to be good enough that where they're going to be able to get back in the playoffs, especially if Nichushkin's coming back, especially if Landeskog's coming back too.
See, I'm opposite to you here. I think this is an underreact, not an underreaction, but I think the reaction is fine. Like when you look at Colorado so far this season, dude, their goaltending it's been atrocious. It's been atrocious. Like you mentioned Landeskog and Nichushkin coming back. Like yeah, that's going to help out, but the issue with Colorado right now isn't so much the scoring and their like forwards out on the ice, right? Like the big issue with them is the goaltending, and I think that's a lot bigger of a solution or
Like a
like
cause for
it's gonna be
concern, you mean?
yeah, like it's gonna be harder for them to solve that where it's like getting Nichushkin and Landeskog coming back, yeah, that's gonna help out, but like that's not the main issue. When you look at their players right now, like dude, they have three players in top 10 in scoring right now in the NHL. You have Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and Nathan McKinnon. Like this team's not having any issues putting the puck in the net, right? Like the big issue is the goaltending, and like I don't think this goaltending problem is gonna get solved by itself, like sort of like the Oilers
Like
did last year,
internally,
right?
you mean?
Yeah, like last year when we talked about the Oilers goaltending to start the season, Stuart Skinner started playing a lot better, right? Like Georgiev, I just don't think that's going to happen with him. Like last year, he didn't look good at either. It's been a solid like 10, 12 month stretch now where Georgiev hasn't really been looking that well. And when you look at goaltenders like out on the market or who you can maybe trade for over the summer, like all those guys got dealt, right? Allmark, he went to Ottawa. You had Markstrom go to New Jersey. Like if you're making a goaltending move right now, you're not really getting a starting goalie. You're sort of getting like a 1B or like or a really good backup, right? And I don't think that's going to be good enough for Colorado. Like this team, honestly, like it is they are scaring me a bit, man. We are still early in the season and a lot could change between now and the playoffs. But like as of right now, man, like if they keep on going on this trajectory, pardon me, like I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs. You look at the central standings, like you have Winnipeg, they've looked phenomenal, right? Dallas, they're gonna be in the playoffs. Utah, man, Utah to start off the season, dude, they're looking good,
They
dude.
look
Like
pretty good.
this is a team right now that I think has playoffs written all over them, right? And then if you have one wild card team from the Central and one from the Pacific, that means that they're gonna have to beat out either the Predators, the Blues, the Wild, right? They're gonna have to beat out one of those teams. And we just talked about the Predators. Yeah, they're off to a terrible start, but I like the Predators team more than I like Colorado's team. When you look at the entire team and goaltending, fourth liners, your last defenseman. Like I like the Nashville Predators team right now more than I like this Colorado team, to be honest. Like I honestly just don't think they're gonna make the playoffs and they're gonna have a down year, man. But I don't
That
know.
is interesting. So do you think like you think Georgiev is just going to continue to struggle? Like maybe not this bad, but like I mean like let's talk about like an 895 or under like consistently, you know what I mean? So like do you see it just going bad and then like they kind of like almost panic, go trade for a goalie or something, or do you think they're just going to try and ride this guy in the last year of his contract, see if it works out and then kind of like move on from there?
See, I think they're gonna have to trade for a goalie, dude. But the thing with that though is like you mentioned Mackenzie Blackwood, right? Like, yeah, that is an upgrade from Gorgiev as of right now. Like
I would
let's be
say,
honest.
yeah.
That's an upgrade. But I don't think it's like enough of an upgrade where it gets him into the playoffs. Like what other goalies, if you're Colorado, would you really be looking at right now? Like
It's kind of
we're
interesting,
so
right? Because like it's like a lot of guys are a lot of teams got their guy or they've got a young guy who they're probably not willing to move. Um, I don't know, man. It's tough. Like one guy that I personally would like to see a team go get, but I don't think they'd trade him is Varlamov. I just think he's a guy that could probably provide a lot of stability. He's probably a fringe like 1B, 1A guy to be honest, but he just plays behind a really good goalie in Sorokin. But they're using him more now in the island, right? So like I don't think he's available. I don't really know who's available besides like Blackwood right now, dude. Like that's gonna come back and actually like provide any like value in accordance to like being a good goalie for you. You know what I mean? Instead of just like dumping a contract or something. Like I don't know. I heard like, do you think Colorado could push for Montembeau? It's like I don't really know if the Habs even want to do that. Like, you know what
yeah,
I
like
mean? Like they finally have a guy who's playing consistently good. It's like, what are we just gonna trade him? Like he's 26. Like he could fit into the future plans almost. You know what I mean? So I think they'd have to be paying an arm and a leg to get him right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, like they might have to overpay, man, and go for someone. I just think
I
that they were like they just kind of thought Georgiev's season last year was like a one-off, and it's like, dude, they could have been the guys to get Allmark, like, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been pretty sick, or Markstrom, you know what I mean? So I don't really have an answer for you, dude. I don't really know who's available. Like,
yeah, that's how it is for me, man. Like when you look at the goaltenders, when you look at the NHL trade market in general, we're just so early on in the season. Like you're not going to be getting that many moves going on. And it's for Colorado, I just don't think this goaltending issue is going to be resolved internally and externally as of right now. Like there's not many great options, right? So I just
the
think they're
only
going to
other guy,
fall
sorry
pretty
to
far
interrupt, that I
behind.
would say is available, but it's not worth it is probably Jari.
That
But like you're just bringing in another like gamble situation, right?
Yeah, like
On a
it
guy
doesn't
that
move the
makes
needle
more
enough.
money.
It just doesn't move the needle enough with Jari. Like any solution right now in goaltending, I don't think it's a solution enough where it's going to sort of turn them around and get them in the playoffs. Like this team, man, like they're top six, they're top dogs without a doubt. Like they're really good players, but their goaltending is
I would
not
say
good at all right
unless
now.
just kind of like going through the teams in my head, I don't know if he's available, but if they were willing to move on from him, like do you take a shot on like Spencer Knight?
Yep, I would if I was Colorado.
Like it might cost you a bit, but it's like then you have a guy who's potentially your guy in the future, you know? Like if they're committed to like Bob still, he's obviously older, but it's like I don't know. Like I'm not really sure what the plans are with Spencer Knight. He just kind of seems like the backup right now, but like who knows, right? Like I don't know if you're Colorado, why don't you just ask? See what the price is. Like
I
you might have your goalie of the future.
if I was Colorado, I'd be calling up anybody right now to go find myself a goalie because I know Nate Dogg ain't gonna be happy about how the season started off right now, right? Like that guy's a
No.
competitor, and he's doing everything he can right now too, right? Like what else can you get from him right now? He's not the issue.
I would say that they're kind of lacking a little bit of defensive responsibility right now. Even Makar, who's putting up 2 points
Yeah,
a game, and that's why I do think I get what you were saying about this team. How goaltending's bad, defense is bad, they're scoring goals, but I do think that their forwards haven't really been buying into the whole defensive system to start this year. So it's like if they start doing that, you could see some improvements in their all around defensive game, right? But I do get what you mean. How goaltending is a huge problem, which can really cost them their season.
yeah, that's fair. Let's move on to this next one. It's my boy Jonathan Huberdeau. The overreaction, underreaction here for him is Jonathan Huberdeau will have his first point per game season as a Calgary Flame. How do you feel about that statement?
This is a tough one because I do think that we've seen Jonathan Huberdeau not play very well over the past couple seasons. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's with the whole mental thing of him being traded or fitting into a new system. But I'm also not convinced that Jonathan Huberdeau is a consistent 115 point player like we saw the last year in Florida. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna go overreaction, but I don't think it's by much. I think he's gonna finish between 70 and 75 points in 82 games, which is a solid season.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's gonna hit that actual point per game mark. But it's basically just not a big overreaction, like a kind of a slight one. You know what I mean?
I'm sort of with you on that. Like I think a point per game might be a little high. Like this Flames team, yeah, they've looked good. They've gotten off to a hot start. Are they going to keep this up all year? I don't think so, dude. I don't think there's a chance that they keep this up all year, to be
Yeah.
honest. So that's just why I don't think he'll be a point per game player. But I'm with you, man. Like 70 to 75 points, I think he can be in there for sure. Like when you're looking at his game, man, it just looks like he loves playing hockey again. Where the 2 years before, like they'd show a shot of him on the bench and the guy just looks demoralized, right? We're now watching him play. It looks like he's enjoying playing hockey again. It looks like he has some chemistry now with some of these players we brought in, like Kuzmenko and him. It looks like they have a connection. He's playing some good hockey right now, and I think he's going to be a big part in sort of helping these younger players on the Flames continue to grow and show them how to be NHL players. And I just want to give a shout out to the Flames. Dustin Wolf, man, that guy has looked incredible so far. Um,
Man, even like I chirp Vladar a bit too, but he's been pretty solid so far to start the season as well. You guys have been getting some good goaltending.
Honestly, and then that's been a major part in the Flames' success so far this season. Honestly, we might be talking about Dustin Wolf coming up here in a few minutes. That's sort of all we had though for the overreactions, underreactions. We're gonna move on. We're gonna do the awards predictions. When we did the season previews, the podcasts were just so long already breaking down each conference, so we didn't really have enough time to do awards predictions. So we're gonna do awards predictions coming up right now, and this is sort of based off what we've seen, but also what we think is going to happen for the rest of the season. So we'll start off with the Jack Adams. Mark, who do you have for the Jack Adams?
Leaf fans probably won't be happy with this one, but I've got Sheldon Keefe on the Devils. I think a lot of things go into this award, right? Like it's really hard for a guy to win an award where they're already consistently high in the standings. I'm more looking at this like New Jersey really underachieved last year. They had a good team. They dealt with a lot of injuries, missed the playoffs. And I had them finishing in second place in this division. I think just the point improvement we're going to see from this team. They're obviously a way better team, even on paper, coming out of last season. But I think with the point improvement and how good I think they're going to be by the end of the season, I can see Sheldon Keefe winning this award with the Devils.
See, that's a good pick, man. I was honestly sort of thinking Sheldon Keefe. The only reason I'm not taking him is just because I think when you look at New Jersey's roster, like they're just so stacked, man. Like they should be a team that's winning that division, right? So
That is fair.
for me, I'm going Dan Bylsma in Seattle. Like this is
Okay.
a guy, dude, that was in the NHL, was out of the NHL for a while, down in Coachella Valley, had a lot of success with them. Coming
Well,
into
you had the
Seattle
Kraken in
now.
the playoffs too, right?
Pardon me?
You had the Kraken making the playoffs too, right?
I forget if I had them just sneaking in or out, but as of right now, man, I like looking at them. They're looking good. I think this is a team that could sneak into the playoffs, right? Like Vancouver in that division, goaltending with Demko, he's out. Pedersen's had a really slow start, right? Like there's a bit of a question mark with them. Vegas, there's a bit of a question mark with them. So I could see Seattle making the playoffs, and I think if Seattle does make the playoffs, Dan Bylsma is going to win the award. The other thing too is like if Shane Wright has a good season this year, like Dan Bylsma has really spent a lot of time with him in Coachella Valley and now in the NHL. So just looking at the whole Seattle team and what Dan Bylsma is sort of doing with these younger players and seeing if they can get back in the playoffs. I think he will end up winning the Jack Adams. Let's move
Okay.
on though to the Selkie. I gotta go with my Swiss boy here, man, Nico Hischier. Uh, we
Okay.
talked about New Jersey just a few seconds ago, right? Like they're a wagon of the team. Nico Hischier, he has a lot of defensive um uh, responsibility. Pardon me, I can't talk right now, man. I'm struggling. He has a lot of defensive responsibilities, right? Like Jack Hughes, he's that number one center, sort of really offensive. Where Nico Hischier, he plays a lot of the defensive role. And I was looking at his stats earlier, dude. This guy's like a 58% like win percentage in the face off circle right now, right? Like that's pretty high for a center. So I'm going with Nico Hischier. He's always been in that talk for the last few years too. So who do
Yeah,
you
man,
have
he's
though?
kind of like I feel like he doesn't really get enough respect, to be quite honest with you. Like he's had a couple seasons where he's been up there, like at a point per game, and Jack Hughes is fantastic, very skilled. But like Nico Heischer's getting these tough matchups every night, right? That allows Jack Hughes to kind of be able to go freely against like the opponents, like not top lines, right? That's a really good pick. I honestly would have him in the nomination, but this year, dude, I think I'm going with Anze Kopitar. He's looked really good to start the season. He's always a really defensive, responsible player. I just think that he's going to continue to have his game elevated like this without Drew Doughty. And I think he's going to be a huge part of them just sneaking into the playoffs. I know he's older now. I would consider Barkov the injuries a little bit worrying me about potentially getting the Selkie out of that. But I really like Kopitar. I mean, he probably could have won a couple more, let's be honest, in his career if he wasn't going against Bergeron. And I think Kopitar, he's just out west, right? He doesn't get as much attention as everyone else. Two-time Stanley Cup champion, and he's just continued to be a really solid two-way center throughout his entire career.
See, Kopitar's a good one too, and then the other one too is Barkov. Barkov with the injury though, it's like how much time is he gonna miss? That's just
Yeah.
why I'm not going with him. I feel like it's always sort of like these three that we're always talking about for the Selkie. And it's just kind of like what one are you going to choose this year, right? Let's move on to the Calder though, man. This Calder race, like when you look at some of the guys that are rookies this year and what they're doing, it's absolutely stacked. Who do you have here though?
So this is obviously a tough one, man. There's going to be some guys that are like not even nominated this year that I think probably should be nominated. But I'm going with Logan Stankoven of the Dallas Stars. He's looked really good to start the season. Honestly, he's the type of guy where I think this year or next year he's probably scoring 30. He's obviously playing with some really good players in Dallas, but he's definitely a difference maker, man. He's so small, but he's like relentless, dude. Like he's one of those guys where it's like he plays like he's 6'7" and he's like 5'9". You know what I mean? He's got a nasty shot. Looked really good in the playoffs last year too for the Stars. So I think he's going to end up winning the Calder this year.
Still, yeah, I like the Logan Stankoven pick. The only thing I'm wondering is like, honestly, he's been off to a hot start, right? Like he's at a point per game right now. Is he gonna finish as a point per game player? Honestly, I don't know. I think he's gonna be
I
more
don't
like
think
in.
so.
I think
But
he's
like
gonna be
I
more
just
in.
think he's going to look good enough all year where I think my opinion that he's going to win it.
See, I'm going with Lane Hudson though, man. Like I
Oh
I
man, you're
know
going to
I
piss
know I've
people off
been
with that.
I know I'm on my knees just sucking this guy off pretty much podcast to podcast, but dude, like when we were when you watch him play, man, like he looks phenomenal, dude. Yeah, defensively, like he can improve there. For me, though, the biggest thing with Lane Hudson is how much of a responsibility he's taken on early on in his career. Like so far this season, he's averaged 23 minutes a game, right? Like I know there was a game we were watching the other night, Mark. I forget who they were playing, but
LA.
he,
He played
LA, I think
30 minutes in 1 second.
he played 30 minutes, dude. As a rookie defenseman to play 30 minutes, dude, like that's absurd. That's crazy, right? Like if he keeps on this pace for the season, I think he's going to get points. I think he's going to get a lot more power play opportunities as the season goes on, to be honest. So I'm going with Lane Hudson just because of the responsibility he has. Like I think the responsibility Hudson has with Montreal is a lot more than what Stankoven has with Dallas, just because Dallas is a lot better of a team than Montreal, right? Like Logan Stankoven there, he doesn't need to be that guy. Where Lane Hudson, like he sort of needs to
So
be your one
you're
or
kind of
one B.
saying so sorry to interrupt, but you're kind of saying like last year Faber had a ton of responsibility, right? But the guy who won it was also the best player on the Chicago Blackhawks who had all the responsibility.
Yeah,
But this year it's like Logan Stankoven's probably looking like a top six winger instead of like a first line center, and Lane Hudson, like you can argue it or not, but he's getting the responsibilities almost like a number one defenseman, like already, even though he's not one at all. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. He's on my team, right? And I really like him so far. Like he just brings a different dynamic in the way he skates compared to like a lot of other players, and no one else on our team can do what he does, right? Like I think it's just his ability to hold on to the puck and kind of get out of trouble, and people are just kind of laughing because he's just holding on to the puck. Sometimes he's not really doing a whole lot with it, but it's like, dude, I prefer the puck on my stick than not on my stick. Like, have you seen that he's leading the NHL in like possession in the offensive zone with the puck this year? Like, no other players have the puck in the offensive zone as much as him. The defensive struggles is definitely a little bit of a concern. I will say though, there's been times where he's kind of gotten out of like situations or even made some good defensive plays that I've kind of been surprised of because of his size. But he's got a lot. He's got a lot of learning to do. Excuse me. I do think that he'll probably be running the first power play by like Christmas. To be
I'd
honest,
say like end of the
I
month.
think they're giving Matheson a chance though, because it's like, to be honest with you, like he does deserve it. Like he was really good last year, right? You can't just throw Hudson in just because he looks like this number one potential defenseman in the future. But I don't know, man. Like it's like I don't want to hype him up because it's like I just don't want to like put my expectations too high. You know what I mean? And then he doesn't end up hitting it. But it's like I'm really excited for him in the future, man. Like I can't lie. Like Montreal's never had a guy like this that I've seen. He kind of has that Quinn Hughes esque type of skating and being able to make plays. And you even saw with like Hughes and McCarr, like they weren't the greatest defensively right away, right? So it's like it's gonna take some time with him. But I mean, I'd honestly just be really happy if he's even nominated for the Calder. To be honest, I think he'd have a really solid season if he is.
So I have a follow-up question here for you on the Calder race and just sort of like scenarios. Let's say let's say Stankoven ends the season with like 65 points. Hudson ends the season with 50 points. 45 to like 50-ish points. Who would you give the Calder to in that scenario, do you think?
Yeah, that's kind of tough. I mean, that's kind of how it was with Bedard and Faber last year, but Bedard was injured for a bit, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, honestly, just a follow-up question. Like, does Stankoven get 30 and 35?
Currently on this pace, no, because his shooting percentage is a fat goose egg. So, but like
I don't know.
realistically, I don't know if he gets 30. I think 25 is attainable. 30, I think
25
30
and
is a bit
40. I
high.
mean, I don't know. I think if Hudson was putting up close to 50 and he was at 65, I'd probably like, I mean, I'd have to look at the eye test as well and not just go off stats, but generally just numbers, I would definitely say it's a lot closer than like what I think it is, what it will be. I mean, like I could probably see both sides of the argument if Hudson put up 50 points.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at last year. Like last year, Brock Faber had 47, right? So
Does it change your opinion? Okay, because it's crazy to see like Hudson has like 4 assists this year, right? He had 2 last year. He's never scored a goal yet, though. So what if he puts up 2 goals and 48 assists? Does that change your opinion?
not at all.
Really?
Nope.
Okay.
Like,
Because I know Faber had like 7 or 8 last year. You know what I mean? But it's like with Hudson, it's like his shot's not great, right? So it's like I don't really see him scoring a lot. He's more of just like a setup guy. So I was just curious if that changed your opinion at all.
hey, like the way I like look at last year with the heart race. Like McDavid had 100 assists. Kucherov had 100 assists. Right? It's like, are you taking away? Like, yeah, they didn't win the Hart, but also like Nate Dogg had an amazing season as well, right? But like, are
Well,
you looking
yeah,
at
and
that
Matthews not even nominated with almost 70 goals, right? So
but it's like, are you looking at guys and being those guys and being like, oh, like they just had 100 assists. They're just like they're just setup guys, right? Like
yeah.
it, you still gotta have a lot of skill to be setting up guys the way like those guys do, and even Hudson early on in his career, like you mentioned the puck and how he has the puck on his stick for the most time on ice in the offensive zone, like yeah, like there are people saying that like, oh, like he skates around with the puck too much, but like I think that's one of those like stats that people are gonna just hate on. Like man, like realistically, you can't win a hockey game if you're not touching the puck. So if Lane Hudson has the puck on his stick 20 minutes a game in the offensive zone, but he only has 1 point, like I don't care, man. Like the puck's not in your zone with the other team having the puck on their
Yeah,
ice, puck
100%,
on their
right?
stick, pardon me. So it's like I don't know. A lot of it's also the eye test, right? So I just like Lane Hudson a lot though so far in his early on in his career, pardon me. Um, let's move on to the Vesna though. This one, man, like there's some guys playing really good goaltending right now. Who do you got?
Man, I was honestly, I was between a couple guys on this one because it's tough, right? Goaltending's so hard to predict, but I think that Jake Ottinger is going to have a huge bounce back season this year and take home the Vezina. I think he kind of had a down year in the regular season last year, sort of to his standards, 905. I mean, that's probably the league average or above it, the way the scoring's been up. But you definitely expect a little bit more from him. He's definitely been better in his career. He's had a great start so far this season, too, as well, kind of up there in save percentage in the NHL. With how good we obviously pumped Dallas's tires, too, I think that the wins are going to be there for him, too, right? He's probably going to be putting up 40 to 45 wins or so, depending how much he ends up playing. But I think it's going to be a tight race, but I think Ottinger will get it this year.
That's a good pick, man. Like looking at the Vesna, it's sort of like Ottinger, Hellebuck, Shesterkin, sort of top three. Where like how the vote is going to vote. Honestly, I got to go with Igor, man. I think this guy,
Not a bad pick at all.
he's looking for the big money, dude. Like we were talking to Garrett Parsons at work the other day, right? Like he was saying he thinks Igor's winning the Vesna this year because he's not doing the whole negotiating during the season stuff. He's waiting till the off season. So I think he's gonna win a Vesna. He's gonna sign for like 12-5 in the off season, dude. Like I love what I'm seeing from him. I think he's the best goalie in the NHL.
I do too. Like I think he probably he's proved it in the season. He's proved it in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Even though he hasn't won, it just seems like every playoff series he's really good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
before we move on, shout out Jake Ottinger, re-signed with the Dallas Stars over this past week. Same contract as Jeremy Swayman, same bonus structure as well, 8 times 8.25. I saw because of where they're both living. Jake Ottinger will take $3 million more over the duration of the contract than Jeremy Swayman, so you can kind of figure out the taxes and how good it is to play in Dallas if you're a player, right? But honestly, Jake Ottinger, people said that he kind of had the argument to make more than Swayman. I kind of disagree with that. Personally, I'd probably take Swayman right now over Ottinger, but I mean, it's not very far off. But I think this is a solid contract for the Dallas Stars and Jake Ottinger. Get their future goalie locked up. And like I said, I think a huge year is coming out of Jake Ottinger. So, I mean, probably good that the Dallas Stars signed this right now.
Yeah, Dallas Stars are a sneaky good team, man. Like last year, a lot of people were like saying cup favorites going into the season, where I feel like this year I haven't heard as much of that talk. So
So, did you hear
I'm
what happened with Ottinger? Like what he did?
no,
So, he knows Swayman because they were drafted the same year and they're both
both Americans.
Americans. He called him and he was talking to him about the process, and Swayman was like, "This is was the worst thing I ever went through in my life." Ottinger called his agent. And he said, "I want to get a deal done now. I don't want to deal. I don't want to go through what Swayman did, and I want this done." And he did it.
That's that honestly, that's fair, man. That's
No,
completely fair.
that
I
is
was gonna
fair. It's just I think he had more the like the starters numbers and stuff to kind of back up what like that $8 million range. You know what I mean? And with him
yeah.
playing in a no tax state in Texas, it was probably easier for him to like quote unquote like take a little bit less. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a great contract for him and for the team as well. Like you can't
Because the
go
thing
wrong
is
with
too,
that
dude,
on
it's
either
like
side.
I think it's a little bit underrated. Like that Jim Nill, I think he's a great GM with Dallas, right? Like he's made some great draft picks. It's like, dude, think about it this way, dude. They don't sign him all year. He becomes an RFA. What if he wins the Vesna, and then he sees Igor get 12-5?
Yeah. You're
He's
looking
gonna
like
be
in the
like, give me
nine
10
and a
5,
half.
11, you know? And who knows if they
Yeah,
win the fucking cup? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, dude, we might be looking at this at the end of the season and being like, holy shit, like this is a really good signing, and they did this at a good time.
yeah, I like Ottinger a lot, and I think he's gonna have a bounce back season. I think if you go with him, Igor or Hellebuck to win the Vesna, like you can't really go wrong. It's just who's gonna sort of just nudge the other one out a little bit towards the end of the season. Let's move on to the North though. This one's gonna be unanimous. I got Cale Makar. The guy's second in the league in points right now. Like this guy could have a
Oh, and he's been
100 point
playing dog
season.
shit defensively too.
Yeah.
And I think he's just going to get even better. Honestly, hot take, Makar's getting over 100 points this year. That's my opinion. I think he's probably getting around like 103 to 105. I think he's 100% taking home the Norris this year.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much of a discussion with him winning the Norris this year. Let's move on to the Art Ross. I got Artemi Panarin. Rangers are looking good so far. Panarin's a hell of a player. He's sort of in his prime right now. I think when you sort of look at the landscape of the NHL and the way people talk about players, like you sort of talk about McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon. You can throw Draisaitl in there. You sort of talk about like those four guys in like one tier, and I feel like Panarin like doesn't get that recognition. I feel like the guy's on a revenge tour, man. I I feel like he's just gonna have a phenomenal season
The
for the
thing,
Rangers.
I love Panarin. I just think the thing that's different with him with others is, to be honest, I find that he kind of disappears a little bit in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we're obviously not talking about the playoffs here. That is a really good pick. I don't know if he's going to continue the trajectory that he's been having to start this year. I'm going with Kucherov, dude. I've just been ranting about this Gensel Point Kucherov line all year. Power play is going to be nasty. I think Kucherov's putting up over 140 points again.
Okay. How many goals and how many assists do you think he gets?
I think he's gonna probably. I think he's gonna be relied upon a little bit more to shoot this year without Stamkos. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's putting up like 50 and like 92 assists or something.
That's
50 to
that's fair.
55 goals, like yeah, 90-ish assists.
I
I
mean,
don't know if he's gonna get 100 assists again, but
I was gonna say I don't know if he gets 100 assists on, but I think goals wise, he breaks his mark from last year. Like he already has 7 goals so far this season, man.
That's what I think, man. I think that,
Yeah.
like, obviously they got Gensel. They replaced a goal scorer with another one, but I think it's like their power play setup's totally different now without him there, right? Like, dude, Darren Radish is playing his spot because like Radish has a cannon, but like obviously it's not the same thing as Stamkos, right? So it's like they're not going to be bringing it over that left side as much as they were before. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit if Kucherov's getting 50 this year.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all either. They're also looking like a good team so far to start off this season. Let's move on to the Hart though. Who do you think's taking home the Hart?
McDavid, man. I think that he's going to figure it out. He doesn't look that great right now. He's just at a point per game, but I think he's going to figure it out. I don't think he's going to get as many points as Kucherov. I think he's probably going to be around that McKinnon territory, and it's going to be like the same thing as last year, where it's going to be like kind of people flip-flopping back and forth who should win this trophy, but I think McDavid will probably end up getting it.
See, I'm going with Panarin, man. Like
Okay.
I gotta back him. I go for him for the Art Ross. I sort of gotta back him here for the Hart. I have a question for you though, because when I was looking at the Hart and sort of who I was thinking I was gonna take to win it, I was like thinking maybe Cale Makar, but then I was looking at defensemen that have won the Hart. Dude, like I don't think a defenseman has won the Hart since like the salary. The defenseman hasn't won the Hart in the salary cap era. But it's like for Cale Makar, what would it take for him to win the Hart?
Like I think he's probably going to be like I think for sure like 110 points, I guess. But the thing is, it's like we saw Carlson put up over 100 a couple years ago, not even getting nominated. I think the thing with him is, though, people realized that he was just like a huge liability defensively, right?
He
And
was
he was
also
on a
in San
terrible
Jose.
team, right? So I don't know, like I guess like 110. Like I mean, that hasn't really been done, right? So it's like if he does that, it's like if Kucherov gets 145 points or Panarin, okay, and Makar gets 110, is that good enough? You think?
I don't know, man. It's really how the voters like decide to vote. And I feel like at this point in time, like since the defensemen have their own thing where it's the Norris, right? Like I think voters don't really take into account defensemen when they're voting for the Hart. Like
That's fair.
I'm looking at the list here of players that have won the Hart as a defenseman. It's been 6 defensemen in the entire history of the NHL that have won the Hart, and I got the list right here. Herb Gardner won the Hart. Eddie Shore won the Hart 4 times. Albert Seibert won the Hart. Ebby Goldfellow won the Hart. Tommy Anderson and Babe Pratt. Like I don't think,
Can't lie to you, dude. I don't think I've heard of any of them.
dude. I don't think any of these guys played like post 1930s, dude.
I'm not even sure if any of them actually like exist.
Like okay, Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr's never won a Hart.
Yeah, like that's crazy.
So it's like if Bobby Orr's never won a Hart, as when we talk about Cale Makar, like the number one comparison is Bobby Orr, right? Like if Bobby Orr's never won a Hart, like what would Cale Makar have to do to win a Hart? I think you'd have to have like
At
a
least
hundred.
110, I think, minimum.
Yeah.
See, but
It,
here's the thing, though. When I think about this, it's like, dude, if Cale Makar was putting up 110 points in a season, do you not think McKinnon's like easily hitting 150?
honestly,
Like if that was the case, like he almost put up 140 last year. Like it's like if Makar, I think their power play would be fucking on fire if Makar had 110 points. First of all,
yeah.
and I just think McKinnon would be getting legitimately like 2 points a game. Like, and it's like in that case, it's like, does he deserve the Hart as the best player on his team? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It's really interesting you brought that up. To be honest with you, if I could predict, dude, I would say in my lifetime, I cannot see a defenseman winning the Hart. I don't see it.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I
And it's
almost wonder if
crazy
you,
because a freaking goalie has won it, like in the past 10 years.
yeah. I almost wonder if you should just change it to like the Hart to instead of being the MVP, have it be like the best,
The Eddie Shore, dude,
like the
apparently.
best forward though, you know?
Yeah.
Like have best because you already have the best defenseman and the best goaltender.
Then you could just do like MVP of the league if you want to just do a fucking league wide
Yeah,
one.
I just thought I'd bring up
Well,
like
they
the
should have like a
local.
defensive defenseman award too, dude. Like
Yeah, they should.
I think Slavin probably would have won a couple by now.
Dude, he's. What about Tanev, dude? Tanev for a defenseman award. That guy would be a sneaky good pick.
Yeah, there'd be a couple good guys up
Yeah.
there, man.
Overall, though, we talked about a fair bit today. We got in our awards.
We forgot one dude, and I want to ask you about it.
Go ahead.
Who's winning the President's Trophy, you think?
President's Trophy? You mean the regular season champions?
Yeah.
Dude, those banners look cool in your arena. I'd definitely be pumped to go to the Flames raising ceremony for that.
Yeah.
Who's winning the Presidents, man? That's a good one. Jets, dude. So far, they're
I
looking
put
like
them missing the playoffs.
they're looking like a wagon so far. That was a terrible. Yeah, that was not your best pick. I'm gonna be honest. Then again, I had Buffalo making the playoffs over the Senators, so
Very true.
that's not great. Presidents, I'm gonna go with the Devils.
Okay.
I said they were gonna preseason. I said they were winning the Metro, so like, I sort of gotta go with the team that I said was gonna win their division, of course, right? Because if I go with the team that I didn't say was gonna win their division, then I just look like a dumbass. But dude, the Devils they're a wagon, man, and they're getting the goaltending now too. Who do
I
you got?
think that we are going to have a repeat of the same regular season champions. I think that the Rangers are going to end up winning the
Rangers?
President's Trophy again this year.
Okay. If they win the President's Trophy this year and they don't win the cup, do you think they hang another banner after like all the trolling that's going on so far this year with them hanging that
See,
banner?
that'd be really interesting because I feel like they would have to replace this past year's or it's going to look really stupid if they change it. Like, I feel like they either have to like just make another one and be okay with it looking dumb or like put a new one but like replace the old one to like match the same terminology. Because it's like, dude, you can't have 23-24 regular season champions get ripped and then put another one beside it that says President's Trophy and
Yeah.
just leave the other one. It looks stupid.
Oh yeah, I think it would look stupid. I think they'd get trolled so much, man. Then again, though, James Dolan like doesn't give a fuck and doesn't really know.
Why don't they just put President's Trophy winners? Like I think putting champions in there just sets me off like
Oh,
a whole
yeah.
other way. I would be okay with putting President's Trophy winners though, because
Same.
you win your division, you're the Atlantic winners. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's any shame of saying you won the President's Trophy if you don't win the cup. Like a lot of people don't get to do that. Like it's still an accomplishment. Like just because it's not the ultimate goal doesn't mean you shouldn't be proud of it or show it off. You know what I mean? It's like winning an individual award for a player, right? Like so. I don't know. I'd be okay with President's Trophy winners. The whole champions thing, it just sets me in a whole other way. I start thinking about fucking Premier League soccer and it drives me nuts. So I think they got to fix it, man. A little bit embarrassing to me.
I agree with you on that. But yeah, I think overall today we talked about a fair bit. Still early on in the season, so there's not like a bunch of like stories we can sort of follow. It's sort of just hot takes and stuff like that. We'll be back next week though with more to talk about. We'll see what big news happens between now and then. Stay tuned too for some more fantasy and betting stuff coming up this season. But overall, thanks for listening, everybody.